I reckon we crack into some trade rumours. So a few things have popped up in the few days since we last did this type of content. We had a fresh trade request from Buku Khamis, the man we call Count Buku, as of a few hours ago. Requested a trade to Carlton. We've also, we were a bit stitched up by the timing of this report because we did a piece of content talking about how Curnow was, wanting to get to Geelong. And somewhere in between making that video and releasing it, Xavier Maguire reported that Collingwood is all over.
Maguire?
Xander?
Yeah, Xander.
Sorry, yeah. Collingwood are up to their necks in a Charlie Curnow bid, and they're also subsequently relinked to Stephen May, which was something that we thought was ruled out some 48 hours ago. So with Jamie Elliott and Brody Myercheck possibly on the way out, and we'll get to those players, Collingwood suddenly apparently have the salary cap for a Charlie Curnow. Now, you think if entertaining this hypothetical for a minute, if they can sign a Curnow, that would be very expensive. And I have to think that other players might be going the other way. But does anyone think there's any possibility that Collingwood are going to be able to satisfy a trade here for Carlton if they are serious about getting Charlie Curnow?
I don't even think Collingwood are going to entertain... Carlton are going to entertain the idea of negotiating this deal. Do you reckon they will?
Yeah, I mean, just from the rivalry perspective.
I don't think they'll even open discussions.
I agree. Just on the fact that you're a player of Charlie Curnow's caliber, you're strengthening a rival so significantly, giving up a player like that. The only thing that I can think of tapping into that, like what Jesse's saying about the picks, Carlton in 2025 don't really need picks because they have Harry Dean and these types. So getting up the draft isn't really a priority for them this year. They kind of want to get out of this draft. 2026, they have Cody Walker. There's actually just been some news out. Didn't want to bring this up in this segment, but from a draft perspective, they're not going to do that lockout on the top 5. So Carlton will have access to their father sons and their academies for 2026 as well, which sort of helps them out. But they kind of don't want to be up the top end of the 2025 or the 2026 draft. So the only thing that I can think of now with being able to trade futures 2 years in advance, Collingwood could give them something that they wanted trading into the future, which they can then on-trade later on for better draft picks. So it will sort of strengthen their draft hand over a 4 or 5 year period now, and they can kind of get this rebuild going.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think that Collingwood is probably the least likely of the 4 teams that have been linked to Curnow to be able to satisfy a deal. As you said, the rivalry piece would be there's been very few players in history who have played for both clubs. I think 30 players in the VFL, AFL history have played for both Collingwood and Carlton. And I think it's been a while since any trades happened between those 2 clubs. So there's that element.
A lot of those players too would be lower end players too, not a superstar.
Would that be the
Curnow.
biggest trade of all time if Charlie Curnow went to Collingwood?
Yeah, probably the biggest bombshell.
Yeah.
But it's just so hard to imagine Carlton giving into this.
I don't see it happening.
But I think there's no way Collingwood could get it done with picks. And I, from what we're hearing about Carlton and what they wanted from Sydney, they don't want just picks, presumably. So what kind of established player would be Carlton asking for?
Yeah, well, that's kind of what I was going into in the previous statements. Picks really even going into the future. Obviously Carlton can leverage those later, but it's not really what they want.
No.
They're going to want players. I mean, on some level, if you think about it, the player that Carlton would be asking for, you're looking for kind of a Nick Dacos level player. I was going to say,
they'll absolutely ask for it if this goes the way it's been reported.
I mean, given the needs on the Carlton list, I think you'd have to be having for a Charlie Curnow, you'd have to be having a ping at someone like a Josh Dacos.
Yeah.
At the very least.
But funnily enough, apparently the ambition, or as was reported, I'm quoting, key to their ambition is his relationship with Josh and Nick Dacos. So obviously...
They own the drink, don't they? Barry's drink.
That's right.
Stakeholders in that.
Exactly. So, that seems wrong. But any other players from Collingwood? You'd think top-end players in their prime, even some of their better players are probably too old. So, I mean, Bobby Hill. But then again, there's doubts around him at the
Collingwood
moment.
have the worst list to be able to fulfill this trade for me. Who's that sort of player that you would want that's in their mid-20s? That's not already sort of a little bit on the washed up side.
Perryman and Houston.
Yeah, and I reckon if anything, Houston's probably lost value.
And didn't he snub Carlton to go to Collingwood?
He did.
It does seem very unlikely this would happen, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I
But
think
you're
that was
right,
partly
yeah.
on Carlton. I think he actually wanted to go to Carlton.
Oh, okay. I'm actually starting to forget the details of that.
Yeah, I believe that was.
Didn't they opt to go for Jagger instead?
Yeah,
Oh,
basically
okay.
they traded their pick away,
That's
and I think
true.
he was actually all in on them.
Gotcha.
Because he would have, like, in theory, Houston actually would have fitted Carlton a lot better.
Yeah.
Spinkscape says long, question mark. You'd think he'd be part of it, maybe. I mean, it's not a bad shout for the purposes of what we're trying to do here. But I still think
Tim Membry.
Tim Membry, I don't know.
The only player that I can think of that's like going down the list, you're looking really at players like a Braden Maynard,
Yeah.
maybe a Dusty Cameron,
Yeah, but again, wrong side of 30.
wrong side of 30.
Yeah.
They just don't have, like, Collingwood just don't have assets as far as
Yeah.
players. They've like,
Jordan DeGoey.
no, you're not taking Jordan.
no.
No. Like, there's no way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
It's
would be
absurd. The
it's
idea
like-
is absurd.
It's one of the Dacoses or no one.
Yeah, exactly. And therefore,
Yeah.
there's no way this happens.
I feel like this just ends up being Sydney.
If at all, it would be Sydney, I would have thought.
Yeah.
Again, like you think that maybe someone like a Gold Coast Suns with their draft situation has the potential to trade it to get maybe West Coast pick 2. Whereas I wouldn't say that about a Geelong or a Collingwood. And probably not even a Sydney.
Just say that again, sorry for me.
Gold Coast are the best placed of all the contenders to at least maybe try and trade with West Coast pick 2. Or they could trade like a Jed Walter. They've already ruled out trading Jed Walter or Ethan Reid. That doesn't mean they absolutely wouldn't. But, to get a deal done, they'd be the best place.
Totally. I think the Gold Coast would trade one of those two players if they could get Curnow.
Yeah, I think, I agree with that. Even that's not enough on its own. I think it would almost have to include a West Coast pick 2 where they trade.
The reason that the Gold Coast Suns are saying that, though, is because picks aren't worth as much to them
exactly.
as players. So if they can get rid of their picks, they can pay a little bit more than everybody else can.
Yeah.
Just on the whole. And it works out better for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Sydney expect to lose Jack Buller to Collingwood. I can't remember if we said this, but there has been there is expected to be a trade request. Collingwood have now been linked to Stephen May, Charlie Curnow, and Jack Buller. Again, continuing this hunt for talls, some of whom are cheaper talls. We talked about this earlier in the stream, but I actually wanted to put a little side conversation here about the Pies and how they, from a list management point of view, navigate the next few years here where you don't want to embrace a full rebuild, but we've probably seen that they were a very aging list that didn't quite make it to the summit once again this year. What can they do, aside from going for Charlie Curnow, which I think is absurdly unrealistic? What can they do to best place themselves, maybe not for a premiership in the next 12 months, but ensure that they're still around in 3 or 4 years?
I think they just keep putting out the kindling to these players, like similar to what Geelong have done over the last few years, and just selling the club, like selling that we're a successful organisation.
Yeah.
We're one of the biggest clubs in the country. You'll play in front of, 80,000 pretty much week in, week out. Nobody else can offer that. Geelong can't even offer that, and they still do really well at being able to attract players and keep them at the club. So they're sort of ahead of everybody from the get-go in a massive football city. So if you're coming through as a good player and you're a massive football head and you want to play in those big crowds and the big moments, like you want to be at Collingwood essentially. If you win a flag at Collingwood, it means more than being at a smaller club, just in the sense of the fan base and how they will embrace you. What they can do is pretty much, put the fishing rod out to those players, sell that, and that's what they're going to do. Like, they're going to leverage the fact that they're in a prelim final this year. Everyone that's on the market in the next couple of years, they're going to go for them, and they're going to be best placed to be able to get them. And we've seen in the last 5 years, if players want to go, they generally go.
Yeah, that's true. How well do you think Collingwood's NGAs this year and father sons bode well for them? That was a terrible way of asking that question, but what is the strength of that cohort there? Because what would really help a team in this position is really quality NGAs and academy and father son prospects. Rather.
Yeah, I don't think they're
High end
crop are that high end. Zac McCarthy has potential, but he's a tall and he's like a 200 centimetre tall, so he's not going to. Collingwood don't typically, at least under this current sort of regime or system, they don't really run like really young players as well. Like, they're very conservative. on
I think
that
the
end.
oldest team of all time.
Yeah,
If
exactly.
I'm not mistaken.
So I don't think Zach McCarthy's going to come in and just like hit the ground running and play straight away, nor are any of the other guys. I think Will Hayes, who got drafted in 2024, played a few games. They didn't even give, like Charlie West was putting up like really exceptional VFL form this year, and he didn't get a look in either. So they're a bit more conservative. They'll play ready-made sort of, senior bodies off the rookie list and stuff like that, overplaying their fresh draftees. I don't think they're going to come in and hit the ground running. They're just going to develop all of those guys and blood them over the next 2 to 3 years. I think we've seen from the better clubs in the competition, that's been the way, like the Geelongs, the GWSs, the Pies are doing that too, where they really give them a proper apprenticeship in the VFL for like at least 2 to 3 seasons before they start giving them proper exposure to AFL football. There are exceptions to that, like players like Levi Ashcroft who are like really ready to go for Brisbane, for example. But I think that's the way that they're going to do it ultimately. And all of their growth is going to come from the signings that they made last year, like your Houstons and your Perrymans, and going for other ready-made players. And what Collingwood have shown us over like a long period of time now, they don't necessarily have to get those stars that move the needle for them. Like someone like a Tim Membry came in and played pretty well. I know he didn't have the best prelim final, but players like that, players like Brody Mychek, like he cost them nothing. That's what all of these best teams are doing. Like look at the Cats.
Yeah, Hawthorn.
They're getting like enormous amount of growth out of players that didn't cost them anything. They're just rookie draftees, John Newcomb, these kind of players. Know
how to scout.
I think there might be a little bit of a step back for Collingwood over the next few. Not like really bad, where they fall off a cliff. But I think what they can, like a model they can look to emulate is the Geelong model. But particularly over the last 5 years, Geelong have actually gone backwards in terms of age and then gone forward again. And I think it was last year or the year before, half their list was under the age of 22, whereas when they were a premiership team, they were the oldest team of all time until Collingwood, I think, when they won the flag. So Collingwood needs to be able to refresh on the fly, not rebuild. Geelong didn't really hit the draft in terms of the first round, other than Jack Bowes with that absurd contract situation where they landed pick 8. Mind you, Geelong got Jai Clark, who isn't a key player at this point in time. So all I'm saying there is Collingwood do need to think outside the box a little bit in terms of getting young guys onto their list and try and strike gold with later picks, because that is what the best teams do. That's so redundant to say, but that is facts.
Totally. But like even like if you look at the Geelong model, like there's nothing like from year on year, there's nothing sexy about what they do. They never bring in like 3 or 4 ready to go players that improve them instantly. Every year we go to do ladder predictors and we somewhat write them off, it feels like, because they haven't made those big moves. They haven't brought in like a top 10 draftee. And they just improve organically. And they'll have some player that comes in that hasn't played a game, like an Ollie Dempsey last year, who plays every game and just instantly improves them.
Sean Manor, Tyson Stengel, guys that were not seen as AFL quality by most other clubs.
Yeah, and they're not super young.
Yeah,
like they're not 18, 19. They're like 21, 22, or in Manor's case, like mid-20s when he came in.
Yeah.
Spinkscapes points out that Collingwood's age is a real issue. I agree. Pendlebury 38 next year. Cox is 35, and I think the suggestion is he goes around again next year. Side bottom, Elliott, Mitchell, Myercheck, all of these guys are 33 or older. Cameron and McStay are 31. Membry's 32. Is Darcy Moore in that list? Because he's about 30-ish, if not 31.
Yeah, 29, 30.
And then Maynard and DeGoey 30. That's obscene. But if it wasn't Collingwood, I'd probably have more fear. That being said, I would have said the same thing about West Coast. I would have said, no, it's West Coast. They're not going to be the worst team of all time.
Darcy Moore's 29.
Like,
he can't
Ned
be.
Long they've brought in.
Thought he's 94. A year.
Don't have the year.
Doesn't
Just got
matter.
the age on Wheeler, but anyway.
Oh, yeah, okay. That would make him... Yeah, right. Doesn't matter.
What was that, Drews?
They have sort of tried to revamp their squad this year, like Ned Long, Perryman, Houston, Lockie Schultz, like all new faces at the club. Is it Ronan Steele? Yeah. So they have sort of tried to remodel this on the fly and still made it to a prelim, but I agree it probably will take them a few years of like that reset before they can really launch again, and they will be competitive, like you said. Maybe they do miss finals next year, but as long as you got Nick Dacos running around that midfield.
I just remember 3, 4, 5 years ago looking at and having these conversations with friends and stuff about the Cats and sort of saying like they've got no young talent coming through, no young talent. And then it just comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's a bad example to say that like that's just going to naturally happen to Collingwood. If it's not there, it's not there. But I think they probably have been growing some of these guys in the VFL that can come through. And if they get 1 or 2 guys that turn into, B+ level solid AFL players, they've got a good enough list to be able to, and a good enough culture at the club to be able to keep that going.
Darcy Moore is 2 years younger than I thought he was. I think I was mixing up with Danaher, who might be 2 years older than that. It doesn't matter. He's 29.
Yeah.
Patrick Bateman asks, will Nick Dacos be wasted in his prime? I think that's a good question. Again, because it's Collingwood, I think they might go back and then go forward again, is my prediction. But so I don't think it's at that stage. But I think if you just looked at a list and ignored the club name and the club strength, you'd think, shit, this is a precarious position for Collingwood. What were you going to say? Sorry.
No, I totally agree with everything you've said there, and I do agree there will be some sort of a dip, but I don't even necessarily think it's like they're absolutely going to miss finals or anything like that. It might just be that they finish 5 to 8 for a season or two, maybe have 1 year out of the finals, and then they'll go again.
Yeah, maybe some hummus or aioli. One of the dips.
Exactly.
We have some updates on Jaden Laverde, who's had a medical at GWS. This is an interesting one quickly on GWS. They're also looking at Robbie Fox, Sam Frost, Koschitzke and Hamling. Those are players that have all been linked to them. It's interesting sort of recruiting grounds to go for the rejected and the unwanted veteran style players. Do you have any thoughts around Laverde or Fox? I mean, from what I've seen, Fox, Sydney fans on average were a little bit aggrieved that he got delisted. Mind you, he is well and truly into his 30s now.
When we were looking at Sydney at the early part of the year, me and Dylan were like, this side doesn't look stacked. And a lot of the Sydney fans were like, yeah, it's because Robbie Fox is out.
We're talking about GWS here though, aren't we?
Yes, GW's requesting him.
They're looking at him. But it just looks like they're trying to add some key back depth. I suppose Lee Kalia is leaving, so they're sort of trying to fill that hole with someone like a Robbie Fox. Frost, I don't know how much more footy he has in him, and Hamling is just what you see is what you get. Had a pretty solid season at Sydney, but Koschitzke, isn't he a key forward?
He can swing, though.
Yeah,
okay.
That's the rumour anyway.
Yeah. Good from you. Yeah. Do they need it? Maybe an extra bit of key back depth after Lee Kalia goes out, because I'm not sure there's all that much key back.
Yeah, they're great
on
at
the
the
market.
top end, aren't they? Like Taylor and Buckley.
Yeah.
I was going to say
May?
there were times, they could go for a player like that. There was times where they were exposed this season because Sam Taylor spent a bit of time out of that team. And then when he wasn't there, so when he came back into the side, Buckley was out. So they sort of had one or the other out for quite a large period of the season. And I feel like then when they bring a Lee Kalia type in, they're just so much less like solitude at the back there. So I reckon they're going for that. I reckon Laverde makes a bit of sense. I think he's
29, so not like he's 34.
Yeah. And I was a little bit surprised by his delisting at Essendon. A very Brad Scott move.
I read that, somebody at work told me who's an Essendon fan suggested that there is a core group of rat bags at the Essendon Footy Club. Stringer was one of them, and Laverde
and Stringer are like best mates, apparently.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because Stringer's at GWS.
Yeah. Just made that connection. Yeah.
I was actually going to mention that, but it's true, and I think they're probably trying to clean up that culture. But you would have to say, though, it's still a risky move from Essendon, given everything that's happening at the club with Ridley wanting out, with Merritt wanting out, with Sam Draper wanting out, that you're kind of, again, Brad Scott in his style, like he did at North Melbourne, cutting just a little bit too deep. Do you have to be so aggressive? They just delisted Goldstein. The oldest player at Essendon coming into next season will be Peter Wright, I think at 28 years old.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. Yeah, 1996.
That's if Merritt goes.
Yeah, he'll be 29, I think, Peter Wright, next year.
Gotcha. Okay. Currently 28 then.
Yeah. But that's still quite young. That's very young to be the oldest player on the list.
That's if all of those guys go.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Petracca likely to get to Adelaide. This is something we knew that was going to be possible. And now the update of the last couple of days is that, Tom Morris was talking about, he says Melbourne don't want to push him out because their bargaining power goes down. A rival doesn't want to come too hard for them because then they lose some of their bargaining power as well. So there's a little bit of a stalemate there. But all parties are keen to potentially make this happen. We've seen a real shift in Melbourne's thinking. Stephen May told to look for another club, Petracca on the way out, and just in general, obviously embracing a bit of a younger approach. I was going to say it's funny that, outwardly they said, yes, this group can win a flag. I just realised that Simon Goodwin said that. So now Stephen King with the new coach, obviously there seems to be a little bit of a new direction there at the Melbourne Footy Club. The update is also that Adelaide are reportedly quietly confident he will join them. What can Petracca do for the Adelaide Crows?
So I think just on that Melbourne piece there,
Sure.
I think King said, he didn't say they'd win a premiership, but he said they would definitely compete for finals.
Yeah, I think Goodwin said the premiership thing though.
Yeah, he said they're not far off a premiership.
Yeah.
Petracca needs to get on the front foot with this though, because we've already seen him like miss a move that he wanted to make in the Hawthorn deal. Merritt's gone on the front foot, sort of, tore the club down as he went out as the captain. But like, if Petracca just sits on his heels, he's gonna miss another year of his prime. He sort of took a dip this year. Get out while you can. I know like Melbourne don't really want to push him out, as you said, for that bargaining power, but if you're Petracca, get on the front foot, son. Make it happen.
What would you, like, what sort of things would you do there to get on the front foot?
Request a trade.
Just very...
It's possible that's happened behind closed doors and everyone is keeping this
I
quiet.
feel like it leaks eventually. It leers, if you will.
I know this is kind of irrelevant at this point, but don't you just feel like this would have been, when we said it in the preseason, Drews, like we talked about this, like wouldn't it have just been better for everybody last season if they just let him go?
Yeah.
He was like, he had the most value. Melbourne would have got the most capital coming back in for him. Petracca would have got the move that he wanted when he wanted it. It just, everyone would have been happy.
Just like holding on to an ex.
I don't think Melbourne
Yeah.
would have been happy though at the time. He, like I said, he was in good form up into that injury. Like it would have been very bold to embark on essentially
I
a
just think
full-blown rebuild.
Clubs are so conservative
Yeah.
with that kind of stuff. Like I know that you can go like, oh yeah, you can say that in hindsight, but I think like that was a pretty obvious move at the time.
It feels like Carlton are in that same position right now with Curnow. Like, let him
Yeah.
go. Let the man go.
That's a fair comment.
Get the max value out of him.
I think there's like, I just mentioned Brad Scott, who I think could be potentially cutting too deep at Essendon. And I think you've got to look at your club situation, but Melbourne have a lot of experienced players. It's not like they need Christian Petracca to be like leading the next crop. They can afford to let him go.
Yeah.
Mind you, what experienced players will really be left at this
Jack
point?
Viney.
Max Gawn, definitely.
Jack
Jack
Viney.
Viney would be there.
Jake Lever.
Jake Lever.
Yeah, Jake Lever.
Melksham.
Jake Melksham.
Langdon.
Cozzie's a premiership player. Ed
Yeah, he's
Langdon.
younger, but like it's enough.
Trent
Yeah,
Rivers.
I take your point.
They got enough.
Is
there.
that not the same logic applied to Zac Merritt here with Essendon? What do you think of that situation?
No, because
is
I don't
different?
think they haven't got as their core group of players. Like there is a nice little core group there, but they're like on the bottom. They're more
Yeah.
like Cozzy Pickett age.
Yeah.
And there's like 5 of them. Like there's the list there. Like Nick Martin, McGrath, Peter Wright.
Langford.
Yeah,
Like,
and maybe those Essendon guys, like in a certain situation, you could be that age and you could have just a bunch of like great characters that can lead you through. But is there anything for us to believe that Essendon's, Durham and
No.
these guys and Cordwell are that? I don't think
Not
so.
enough. Durham is a good enough
He's a
player,
good
but
player.
not on his own.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, Adelaide, there was a comment there from Coop Dog. What would they have to give up?
That's a good question.
2 firsts.
2 firsts.
2 firsts.
Yeah.
For
he's-
Petracca.
I think so.
Oh.
Wait, hang on. Adelaide are a top 4 team, or top 6 this year, and
Yes,
could
but two
potentially.
firsts
They're
is
late
a-
firsts.
Yeah.
And he's contracted.
2 firsts is
I reckon
a
you
wide
roll that
bandwidth.
dice. Yeah, it's not like 2 top 10 picks.
That's true.
We're talking about, what's Adelaide's pick going to be this year? Like 20 by the time this all comes.
Oh, worse actually.
Yeah.
It'll be worse after
And
that.
then next year, it won't maybe not be as bad, but
What would
that's
you
still not
expect? I
great.
mean, you'd still be thinking like 15 plus.
yeah. So 15 and 20 for Petracca. If anything, I think that's a pretty good deal. I think it's a no-brainer for Adelaide to take the punt with their list position on a
makes,
Christian Petracca.
That makes sense. That is 2 future firsts.
Yeah.
You just, as soon as you hear 2 future firsts, you think top 10 picks.
It can mean anything. Like
Yeah,
West Coast
yeah, it can.
2 first picks is
Yeah.
very different
It's
to
actually
Adelaide.
like a stupid way that we put it, isn't it? Because it's like anywhere from 1 to
Yeah,
like
yeah.
25,
20,
basically.
Yeah, but in the context of Adelaide, it's two first, I would
Yeah,
say.
there you go.
And maybe like some player could use a new opportunity without having real value.
Sam
Yep.
Flanders looking to come back to Victoria. We were talking about this on the last video. We're talking about St Kilda, Essendon, Melbourne and Carlton, all potential suitors. But the Dees looking to hit the front of the pack, Jesse.
Yeah, there's a bit of speculation from Tom Morris, just simply that if Petracca to Gold Coast could actually happen. I mean, what I just said was that Adelaide are expecting to get him, but in any case, like I think what Melbourne's probably trying to achieve here is Petracca out and Flanders in, which I wonder if that would. ramp up the likelihood that Flanders selects
I
them?
don't think Petracca really fits into that Gold Coast side, at least as a midfielder, but maybe as part of a bigger trade with multiple
you're thinking
clubs.
Petracca goes the other way.
It was highlighted by Tom Morris. He said Gold Coast and Adelaide are both live options here.
Is there a way there's a three-way?
Yeah, you'd
It
think
is
so.
possible, but again, if you consider the fact that Gold Coast are a contender for Petracca, do they then take part in a three-way deal that sees him go to a different club?
That's a good question. I like Flanders to Melbourne though. I think if Melbourne offloaded Petracca, bought in Flanders and paid about the same price, that's a great deal for them.
Yeah, it's still some midfield support. That's a good few years younger than a Petracca, less talented, but it supports a little bit what they have already been drafting in recent times.
Yeah, and who knows? I think Sam Flanders could turn into. I think he's already an above average player.
Yeah.
But he could go to that next level if he adds a few more angles to his game as well.
Yeah,
it's
certainly get more opportunity as that type of midfielder forward as opposed to, the fifth or whatever.
And we've said in other videos, I think Melbourne, in their specific situation, they have a lot of young, talented players that have a lot of X factor, and I think they can afford to bring in a more consistent, lower ceiling player.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Higher floor.
Zac Bailey has reaffirmed his loyalty to Brisbane. That's the only update here. He says he's got a year and a half here at the club, so it doesn't completely shut the door on a potential free agency move. But we know that Zac Bailey is a pre-agent, was linked to Essendon. There's also a recent link to Adelaide. It was pretty clear from the wording there. There's no chance of it happening this year.
Yeah. I mean, there's no way in any situation that Zac Bailey is going to say that he's going to Essendon this year now, is he?
I suppose he's got a pretty important game on the weekend.
Yeah. I don't know if I'd take anything from that particular conversation, but...
it does also seem... It just goes against logic to think that Zac Bailey would go now.
Yeah.
If you're playing 3 grand finals in a row.
Like you said, it would have to be an enormous amount of money. And Zac Bailey is not the sort of player I feel that's going to thrive at a weaker club. He's the spice.
Yeah. We are still going to learn about these players. I think we should hopefully soon get updates on some of these of the following players here. James Worpel, we still haven't heard any confirmation as we record this that he ends up at Geelong, although that has been kind of a poorly kept secret for some time.
That'll come out this week, surely.
You'd think so. Now Hawthorn have been eliminated, which was only 3 days ago or whatever.
Interviews probably in the coming days, I'd expect, given that they went out over the weekend and then Brownlow tonight.
Yeah, he could be there by Geelong's Mad Monday.
Obviously, we're hearing a lot about this one. Do you think with Worpel to Geelong, does he just... what's his role there? Does he just walk into that side in 2026?
I think so.
He's a little bit Atkinsy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you wouldn't, you can't have 2 of those.
That's my point. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you.
He could be a 4th midfielder in Geelong.
So what's their midfield look like?
Holmes, Smith, Atkins, Jedbu.
Mind you, is Tanner Bruin going to be around?
No, the man that shall not be named.
Yeah. Well, I think it's... we won't discuss exactly the rest of that story, but it's worthy consideration. Tanner Bruin was previously part of their plans, and James Worpel could potentially be part of the solution.
30. How old's Worpel? You're a good age.
26.
Man. There you go.
Yeah.
He's a good age profile for them, definitely.
I think he walks into that Geelong midfield as at least a 4th option.
I don't know if he when you say walks in, those guys that you said are clearly above him.
Yeah.
And then he's fighting with a George Stevens, Mitch Nevitt type as that sort of extra one who they've played a fair bit in 2025 who aren't in the team right now. I'm just trying to think
he's probably he's an upgrade on those guys.
I mean, the ones that are coming in, the ones that are playing right now are I guess Oyson Mullen is sort of a midfielder at times, depending on who they're playing against. And then O'Connor would be the other one.
Yeah.
Who they're very, Geelong players are very utility-esque, aren't they?
Yeah.
They sort of play different roles and stuff like that, which is odd. Is Worpel actually, does he have the versatility of a Geelong player?
Probably not.
Just watch him go to Geelong though, and he'll do the most Geelong shit
I know
ever.
what you mean.
I think it's also support for Atkins, as Patrick Bateman says in our comments there. Atkins is going to be 30.
I think Atkins is better than Worpel.
I agree with that, but I suppose it's just about... when you're in contention, you look at reinforcing these things, and Worpel was a big Cats man. Again, these things are things are different when it's Geelong. And players are willing to more likely willing to just be part of that ecosystem.
It just works.
It does.
Yeah. I just mean more like any other club.
Yeah.
Worpel doesn't go to where there's a Tom Atkins.
No.
But then he might go to Geelong for that reason. And it helps
No.
that he was a fan.
He's been playing consistently in a very good Hawks side as well.
They don't have a good midfield though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very true.
It works because they don't have superstars in the midfield.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it'll intrigue me how they use him and how they balance that out.
Yeah.
Judd McVee's another one we've been speaking about for a while. The Dees have just got a new coach in Stephen King. I think he's more likely to stay. I don't think the lure back to WA is all that strong. But yeah, have you got any updates, or is it sort of just watch this space this
I wrote
week?
this name down because surely we hear about it soon, because the last update we heard, I think Adelaide were in the mix and the two West Australian clubs. Young, talented player. I think he was waiting for a new coach to be appointed, which is interesting because it's like, okay, you wait for a new coach to be appointed. What exactly are you waiting to see? Whether you hate them or you love them?
What
like,
your role's going to be in the team or their
Do
plans
you
for
think it's more
Okay,
to
that's a
do
good
with
answer. Fair.
That's a good point. Do
Yeah.
you think it's more to do with he's waiting to see what other Melbourne senior players do?
That could
And
be the case.
Goodwin's obviously been a coach that's been very, very connected to these older players.
Yeah.
And now seeing Stephen King come in, it's like, okay, how is he going to treat these guys? What's their role going to be? Is Petracca going to leave? Is Oliver going to leave? Because that opens up some space for me.
From what I can tell, from what I heard from Damon's supporting mates, it was like Buckley has always had that like real good rapport with players, and they sort of like idolize him because it's Nathan Buckley, whereas Stephen King's more of like a commander type thing.
Yeah.
Doesn't really have as much of that relationship, but like as a club that's losing their coach, there's going to be a big period of transition and a lot of unknowns. So I think it's smart for Judd McVee to just sort of drag this out a little bit, assess his options, because the Dees could be, bouncing back up in a couple of years, or could be really shit in a couple of years, depending on what decisions they make in the next few weeks. So I think it's smart for Judd McVee to just really assess his options, work with his agent and see what option is best for him.
Couldn't
as it
agree more.
stands.
I'd expect him to stay.
Yeah,
is my
I
expectation.
agree.
We just got a question here from Justin Time. Jesse, would you be happy if West Coast offered Jacob Blight a contract after he was delisted by Richmond? I would, because it makes sense. We need a tall, but that kind of leads into another update I heard here. This is just a big footy rumour. I'm going to put a huge grain
I
of
love
salt on
rumours.
this. But apparently Tyler Young has recently toured the West Coast Eagles. We know that I think North Melbourne and then possibly the Bulldogs, I think 3 teams looking for a key back. Were the other teams linked to him? But the update is he's recently toured West Coast. So I think we get an update one way or another. Doesn't mean he's going to join West Coast.
Is he from WA?
No.
Okay.
No. West Coast have just courted him. So you'd think, well, he gets some decent job security there with West Coast, with McGovern retiring and, well, a lack of depth in that position. So
I feel like he walks straight into our team as well.
Yeah,
That brings me to a question to Druzy, who's the middleman here. Who would you pick?
Out of who?
West Coast and North.
To
If you're
join.
Tyler Young.
Your 27-year-old key back, let's just say being offered similar money.
Right now I join North as an older player.
Did you say Tyler Young is 27?
Yeah.
Is he really?
Yeah, I believe so.
Tyler, middle-aged adult.
I will verify that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought he was younger than that.
So did I, because I don't think he's been around long.
Tyler Young is 27.
yeah.
Wow.
Well, I feel like you're more likely to get success with North at the age that he's at, right? But as a club, I'd prefer to join West Coast. But right now, North, because you're probably going to win at least.
I would
3 or
choose
4
West
more
Coast.
games.
It would be interesting to
love
see
that.
who he picks. But my point of bringing that up was we should get an answer soon. Like all of those clubs have been out of the finals race for some time. But West Coast at least getting him to tour the facilities does imply some interest. Just before we wrap up, a few players are linked to join Tassie in their first ever VFL team. And none of these are confirmed, but there's a suggestion that Robbie Fox will go to Tasmania's VFL team if he does not go to GWS. Jai Menzies, Camden McIntosh and Alex Sexton.
Raft
Some
of big
sexy
names.
foxes.
I just thought it was an interesting little tidbit there.
Yeah, nice.
That we're starting to see the first VFL players for Tassie. I'd imagine none of these guys. Jai Menzies probably young enough where he could actually get an AFL contract, depending on how their list structure works. Like, can they just sign their own players? But
The other guys that'll be 30 plus. Fox, McIntosh, Sexton.
Yeah,
Be
absolutely.
an exciting project to join, though, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
for sure.
And Buckley's openly said he's interested in the Tasmania job. So I reckon we can probably bank on that. Nathan Buckley to be the inaugural coach.
I think a lot of those guys too going into the VFL program are probably looking for life after football a little bit as well. There'd be like plenty of opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely.
If that comes up, yeah.
It was quite candid of Buckley to say what he said. I don't know if you saw it. He was interviewed and he said like, the reason I told them to not pick me for the Melbourne job was because I have more interest in the Tassie job. So like when Buckley's saying that, I reckon it's pretty safe.
I can't remember who I had a conversation with this about, but I was talking with somebody about Buckley and just in his mind choosing Tasmania over a Melbourne. I think like he's been such a big figure at Collingwood. So choosing a team like Tasmania, it feels like there's a bit of a like it's disconnected.
Yeah, separation
there. Whereas going to Melbourne, it's like a bit of a rival.
It's like Sheedy going to the Giants, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's like and he's such a big like presence in the AFL and has been for such a long time. Like to start a new bit of, one of the founding members of a new team, I think there'd be a lot of appeal in that. Harrison C just asks, who can North go as a key defender? Is Jordan Butts a realistic option? And is he even that good? I mean, I don't think he's that good.
He had a good season in 23, was it?
Yeah,
22,
yeah.
23?
I don't think he's going to be like a top 5 defender in the competition or something. But I do think he's something a little bit different to what we have. He's like a true lockdown type defender.
He has a crack.
He has a crack and he can take big bodies. You don't ready?
No, his name's Jordan Butts and he has a crack.
Yeah. Should have seen that coming.
Nice. Desmond's high five. No one saw that.
I think he he facilitates Charlie Comben. He lets Charlie Comben be a little bit more expressive with his intercepting and stuff like that. So I think that's going to help North Melbourne. Is he realistic? I think
he's contracted. Is the only. I think if he wasn't contracted, this might be a lot easier.
No, also, like for North Melbourne, I think they're a little bit liberal with like giving picks away as well.
Yeah, true.
Which probably like gives us a bit more of an opportunity to go for somebody like that. I guess he's got to want to come to Melbourne as well. Yeah, like I think it's a decent move and it's a realistic move. I don't think he's like, every top club in the country's looking for him.
He fills a hole for you.
Yeah. Shut up. Angus Heasley says, fun fact, if Essendon lose Zach Merritt, their oldest player will be Peter Wright, who is 28. Yeah, I think we touched on that just before, didn't we?
Yeah.
An extremely young list. It feels very similar and eerily similar to Brad Scott at North Melbourne with the deep cutting.
Yeah.
That he did.
Just on Jordan Butts again there. I saw him play one of the sickest games of his career against West Coast. He didn't just kill him, he wrecked him.
You suck. Oh, that's good.
I'm sorry. Thank you.